Killers of the Flower Moon was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. You've got Martin Scorsese, who I believe to be the greatest living filmmaker, returning after 4 years from his previous masterpiece, The Irishman, to deliver yet another masterpiece. My favorite filmmaker has come out with a new movie. I had every reason to be excited, and I was excited out of my mind. I had never seen any of the trailers. I have stopped watching trailers at this point because I want to witness every frame for the first time on a giant IMAX screen. Any new detail or news I heard about the film just left me impatient to watch it. And after finally having done so, I am so glad to say that Scorsese once again proves why he's the best in the business. Despite being 80 years old, he's still at the top of his game. Now, this review will contain spoilers for the film, so this is my warning. This film is about the Osage murders, where members of the Native American tribe are murdered by Americans for their oil, and the FBI investigates this crime. But this film isn't a detective drama where we are trying to figure out who the killer is. We know who they are from the beginning. Hell, the story is told from their perspective. Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro play some of the most despicable human beings perfectly. Their detestability doesn't just stem from their actions but their core beliefs. William Hale, played by De Niro, doesn't even see the Osage as human beings. No matter how much he repeatedly claims to love them, all he sees them as is headrights. And what's even more screwed up is how he's entirely unaware of just how pathetic he really is. Watching De Niro flip the switch from levity to menace is just astonishing. And his influence bleeds onto his nephew Ernest, who is an impressionable young man looking for work. Hale uses his power and dominance to make Ernest do jobs that require killing members of the Osage community in order to inherit their money. By engaging in these activities, Ernest himself begins to share his uncle's ideologies, and this is what leads to his eventual downfall. Now, the film, despite being close to a staggering 3.5 hours, was a breeze to sit through, for the most part. I found myself completely immersed in the film until the interval, which unfortunately completely broke my immersion. Thelma wouldn't be too happy about that, but I digress. The pacing of the film is so crisp that each scene is beautifully woven into the next, and I just found myself in the moment of every scene, never once thinking about when the film's going to end or how. Only towards the end of the film did I really start to actually feel the length of the film, which is in no way a bad thing. The film also looks beautiful. Rodrigo Prieto's cinematography is out of this world, capturing the haunting imagery of this tragedy with a level of distanced objectivity to it, while still leaving the necessary impact. The bright yellow of the flames shining on a terrified Leonardo DiCaprio's face is one of those images that will stay with me. Seeing the look of dread and regret on this man's face for whatever he's done is something that sticks with you. There's another heartbreaking scene where, you know what? Let the master himself explain it to you best.
But there is one scene that is quite something, where Leo's character comes back into the house after the explosion, and he has to tell Molly that it's her sister's house. And the camera's point of view, and he's just walking through the house, and you hear a child calling, "Mommy, Mommy," which was real, was happening. And he opens the door, and you look down, and they're hiding in the storm shelter. She looks up. He doesn't say it's your sister's. He doesn't say anything. He just goes, shakes his head, and she knows. And then some primal scream comes out, which is stunning for everybody.
Even the way the film signals death is fascinating. Lizzie, Molly's mother, says that seeing an owl is a signal that she is dying. So later on, when Molly is sick in bed and sees the owl, my entire theater gasped. It's fantastic visual storytelling. And even when Lizzie dies, we see her gladly walk away with what seem like her ancestors, proceeding to cut back to reality where she has passed away and her family is crying in agony. These harsh cuts aren't new to Scorsese, yet are so impactful as they just throw you right into a scene while you're still trying to process it, and it creates this sense of urgency and adds to the feeling of devastation. And more than anything, this film is about apathy and regret, themes that aren't unfamiliar to Scorsese's earlier works. The sheer apathy with which Hale and Ernest view the Osage is sickening. They don't even see them as People, they wish to be a part of them, but it's only for their wealth and territory. When talking amongst themselves, even in their simple vocabulary, the Osage are spoken of as a different species almost, as people who will soon go extinct, who had their time. And they take advantage of their kindness for their own greedy desires. There's this dread that surrounds the film, like the hate that surrounds the Osage. The film sometimes shifts to Molly's perspective, played by an outstandingly subtle Lily Gladstone, as we hear what she's thinking and how she's feeling. The emotionless apathy is counterbalanced with the empathy the film has for the Osage and how much respect it has for the community. You really feel for the quiet oppression this community is going through. Molly's character is the heart and soul of the film, someone who is forced to endure seemingly endless adversities just for being an Indian with a lot of wealth. Ernest seems like he actually does love and care for Molly, but on the other hand, he's also actively involved in the Osage murders, and I wondered whether his love for his wife was real or if it was all an act. But it feels so authentic that I didn't really know the answer, and I found that endlessly fascinating. I mean, how can he love her while also apathetically plotting to kill the people she loves? The film deals with these conflicting emotions and it gives the characters a three dimensionality to them. It never tells you what to think, it simply presents the facts, and you're the one who's forced to ponder. Ernest also, interestingly enough, reminded me of the protagonist of Scorsese's previous film, The Irishman, where they're asked to do these killings from an authority figure that they respect. And we see its aftermath on them by focusing on the regret that the protagonist feels for the remaining runtime of the film. The character's passive nature is what adds to their impressionability. And this thing really is a Scorsese film, from the energetic camera movements and needle drops to the problematic characters and their resolution. His iconic use of slow motion is there and effective, but the film mostly has more slow, quiet, and meditative shots that lets you breathe and take in everything that you see. Towards the final act of the film, whatever Hale, Ernest, and anyone else who aided them had done comes to bite them back in the ass. And that's also reminiscent of his earlier films, where the film lures us with excess and then shows us the aftermath of reality. But the interesting thing here is that Hale remains exactly the same, whereas Ernest starts to realize the gravity of his actions. With every murder, this grief starts consuming him as Leonardo's face just corrupts slowly and at the end chooses to go against his uncle in order to be with his wife and kids. Whereas Hale's of the belief that none of this matters, that soon people will forget about these murders because no one really cares. And the very thought of that is terrifying because of how urgently relevant it still is. When the film ended, I was just left there in shock of everything that I'd witnessed for the past 3.5 hours, having seen a brutally honest portrayal of evil and greed and empathy and love. The final few minutes of the film were honestly moving. The saddest part about these murders is that they will probably be forgotten, that no one will care, that these stories can be rewritten by those in power for easy consumption. And Scorsese making this picture is somewhat fighting against that by highlighting a story that was largely untold for decades and showing it to a modern audience through the medium of cinema. Scorsese's cameo in the film was a nice little surprise, but also meaningful, as he talks about how these killings were just treated as a footnote in history, as one of American history's darkest chapters was slowly forgotten by the world. The final shot is of the tribe in modern days, celebrating their culture, showing their endurance and perseverance throughout the decades. It's powerful stuff. Is this his best film? Well, I certainly couldn't say for the best, but is it his favorite of mine? I wouldn't say so. Films like Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Silence, The Irishman, and a few others have resonated with me more, but what can you do when the man has made so many masterpieces? But maybe upon repeat viewings, my feelings towards the film might change. But honestly, it doesn't really matter if this is his best film or not. It honestly feels like a dream come true for me to get to watch a Scorsese film in the cinemas. Despite the aggressively annoying and disrespectful teenager sitting beside me, half the theater applauded when the film ended, which was certainly something to see. And what saddens me is that there's a small chance that this might be Scorsese's last movie. He has expressed his desire to tell many more stories, but feeling like there's not enough time to do that, and that just depresses me. I really urge everyone to go watch this film because it really is made by someone who cares about this art form, cares about the medium of film, and values the power it holds to change and influence people. Cares so much about it that he's willing to fight for it against the powers that threaten its very existence. While making great movies, he also champions the work of other younger filmmakers that push the medium in new and challenging ways. His contribution to film preservation cannot be overstated. This is someone who has given his heart and soul to the medium. So it doesn't really matter if you agree or disagree with him on whether Marvel movies can be considered cinema, but hear him out on the point he's trying to make about smaller independent voices being crowded out due to the excess of content and crowd pleasing movies that aim to please the lowest common denominator. He's not a grumpy old man who hasn't changed with the times. He's someone who possesses more knowledge about the medium than you and I probably will ever know. And he's still here, making movies, telling stories, and that means something. To me at least. Thank you guys for watching. I am so glad to have seen Killers of the Flower Moon. It was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and I'm just so glad that it lived up to the hype. Please comment down below what you think of the movie. I would love to talk about it with you in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe, support the channel, keep it going, and until next time, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.